MedBix Webcast is a new kind of healthcare media channel to break the silo mentality and foster interdisciplinary thinking. Our mission is to fill that gap and to create a curiosity through different lenses, tapping the passion that guided the historical figures in medicine and bringing present-day groundbreaking research to the front lines. We interview physicians and leaders in the industry about present-day healthcare challenges on our live programming. Hello, welcome to the MedBix Webcast. This is Ramana Hanamaraju. I'm the host. I have a very important, very interesting guest today. She's an international guest. She's a OBGYN doctor from Texas, Houston, Texas. She's going to join with us. After that, I'm going to give her just a little bit of background in a minute. But after that, I'm going to present a topic on a woman extraordinary contributions made by a particular woman in medicine. Okay, she's from England. She was born in England. So I'm going to give that background. So I'm going to present that topic. So this today is going to be, the doctor. I went to school in Concordia, Montreal, Canada. My brother was there, so I'm very familiar. I went to a short period of time in Edmonton, Alberta, very cold place. So this Dr. Catherine Hansen, she's from Canada. She was a practicing OBGYN doctor, was a practicing in Canada, and her husband is an astronaut. And then she moved to under the Canadian Space Program. Her husband moved to the NASA. Now he's on mission to going to the Artemis 2 mission next year. So that's going to be exciting. But she's a OBGYN. She delivered babies here in the United States, in Canada. She understands all these international things. And then she's also one of the very few people who got certification in the menopause. I didn't know that there's a very few doctors have this special certification in menopause. So she's truly an expert in the menopause area. I'm a man. I have no clue what it is, but I'm going to ask her. The second one is she's also, did a fellowship, kind of a clinical fellowship in the sexual health. There's a lot of debate going on for a woman, the sexual thing after the menopause, during the menopause, and what are the things that triggers chronic conditions, how long there's so much complexity in the menopause system. And we can ask her. Let me bring Dr. Catherine Hansen. And by the way, let me bring Dr. Catherine Hansen. She actually, before I bring her, I want to ask her important question. She drove, let it be first. She drove from Houston to Ottawa, Canada by herself, and she must be a strong woman. So tell us your background and how you did that, and welcome to the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ramana. Thank you so much for having me tonight. It's wonderful to be here and to be having this different perspective conversation. It's always fun and entertaining to hear what you present and have an open dialogue with you. So I look forward to the evening. My drive from Houston to Ottawa happens a couple of times a year. So I have friends and family and also children in Canada, and my son's in school in Ottawa. So I headed up with our van to help move him out of his residence. And it was very, 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 very long drive. I like to get things done quickly, and it was not something I could get done quickly. It was 28 hours, and I did it in 2 days. So I have to say, I don't recommend it. What I much preferred was the last time I did it, which included a stopover in Graceland and a little bit of fun on the way. This time it was all driving and all business, no play.
Oh, isn't to say. Anyway, you must be a strong woman. It's not easy. Anybody, even from Montreal to Ottawa, it was tough for me. I wanted to ask you, Dr. Catherine Hansen, you did a lot of work on the menopause area. Tell us, what is a menopause? What are the symptoms of menopause? What age they go through? Just give us a little bit background about the menopause things for a woman.
Absolutely. So all women, if they're lucky enough, are going to experience menopause, and some will experience some symptoms, and some will actually be able to go through menopause without much difficulty or maybe even much notice. The average age of menopause is 51 in the US, and the symptoms can be really varied. What we know is that about 75% of women will experience hot flashes, night sweats, sometimes disrupted sleep or insomnia. A lot of women will experience changes in the vagina or dryness or pain with sex or bladder issues. And so we know the tissues change, the blood vessels change, and all the organs can start to change. And so there's a lot of symptoms related to those things. What people don't always know is that there's some, vague symptoms that are often associated with this time of life. They can be aches and pains, joint aches and pains, sometimes brain fog, or even headaches, often sort of feeling a little more fatigued, irritable, a bit more angry than usual. Sometimes some of those PMS symptoms that we were used to when we were cycling, they can be exacerbated around the time of menopause. So all related to hormone fluctuations. And so those would be most of the symptoms. Again, not everybody experiences it the same way. Every woman's menopause is unique to her.
What is the age range? Usually, is there any particular age range, or can you? Is there any sensors can tell you what age or what time they switch to the menopause menopause state?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because we get that question a lot. Like, it's too early for me. Why am I having these symptoms? And so we know that women can start to have menopausal symptoms as early as the late 30s, early 40s, definitely into the mid 40s. The symptoms can last for about 10 years around the time of menopause. We call it the climacteric, which is the time leading up to the actual menopause. The definition of menopause is 1 year anniversary of the last menstrual period. So menopause is actually a day, an anniversary of the last menstrual period, but the menopause time frame, or the perimenopause, that we talk about, is all of the symptoms associated with that time frame when the hormones start to fall off. Now, if a woman is having menopause before the age of 40, in other words, she stops having her menstrual cycles for a year before the age of 40, that's considered early. And there's some other, considerations that need to be taken into account. But after that time, it can occur really pretty much anywhere in there. And women should be, thinking and asking questions of their doctor to make sure that what's happening to them is related to that hormone change and what can be done about it.
Is it only the absence of periods, or do you have any diagnostic test available in the we can measure, we can test it, you're on the menopause state or not?
Yeah, so we don't absolutely have to test it. And the reason is because hormones fluctuate minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day. And so sometimes the hormone levels that we test don't necessarily give us that answer. But there's a brain hormone called FSH, or follicle stimulating hormone, and it starts to go up around
Okay.
the time of menopause. It goes up because it's driving the ovaries, because they don't really want to ovulate anymore. They're not really doing their job. They're getting tired. And so the FSH goes up to try and drive the ovaries and to try and get more estrogen out of the ovaries. So if the FSH is elevated for a woman, it means she's probably entering menopause. And that's probably the most diagnostic test to have a look at, whether a woman is entering menopause or postmenopausal.
Is there blood test? Is it a blood test that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a blood test. So there are some providers who may offer salivary testing. That's not been found scientifically to be very accurate. And, other tests that people say are required are absolutely not required. We actually use symptoms and age and making sure that nothing else is going on. So often we'll test thyroid to make sure that the thyroid is normal. We might test various heart parameters to make sure that there's no heart condition contributing. A woman really needs to make sure she's getting an annual well woman exam and a full checkup. But ultimately, if it seems like menopause, it probably is menopause.
So you need to rule out other stuff first before you come to the conclusion of that menopause. It's a very complex system. What I hear my sisters, my mother. I remember my mother going through these things. It's a lot of mental health pressure, a lot of mental health. It affects the particularly woman go through a lot of mental pressures during this time. Tell us a little bit mental impact on the mental health of the during the menopause a little bit, Dr. Hansen.
Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it's important that women understand that this can cause a lot of stresses. It can cause a lot of mental, cognitive, emotional strain, physical strain, but it doesn't have to. And so some women will experience those changes and those stressors, and some will not. I think it's important for us because a lot of times, and I hear this over and over and over from women, a lot of times they'll talk with their healthcare provider and they'll be made to feel like they're crazy or not validated in those concerns. And I think that's the most important piece for women to hear, is that if you feel like something is going on with you, it probably is going on with you, and no one can tell you it's not. You know your body better than anyone else. And if it's a stressful situation, physically, mentally, emotionally stressful, continue to advocate for yourself and ask for the help you need.
I agree no more. I also say brain is a resident monitoring system. That's the best monitoring system you have. Anything I would not, that's the one thing people should not rule out as a hysteria, as a just dismiss as a hysteria. Is a much more valid reasons there. Is that you must pay attention. A lot of OB/GYN doctors understand that.
Yeah,
So
you
what
you
are
used I just want to say you use the word hysteria, and it's really interesting because historically, and you love talking about history, your stories are and your research is so interesting. And we know that the word hysteria has come from the word hist, which is uterus.
oh
And
really?
so women have always been, throughout decades, throughout generations, been made to feel hysterical, and the actual organ, the uterus, is what led to that word hysterical. So women are not hysterical because they have a uterus. It really is an unfortunate play on words and root of that word for women, because really women are made to feel crazy a lot of the time, and it's not crazy. It's just really what's happening to us. So thank you for that.
Thank you for educating me. First time I learned about that history, and that you even connected with there. That's I'm honored to get some education on that area. And all men should need that education. In fact, I wanted to ask you one more question. How do the men can support? I'm a man, and we don't pay attention to it. Just give us how the man can support this while they're going through menopause in general.
Oh, that's such a great, heartfelt question. Thank you for asking that. I really strongly believe that men are a huge part of the solution for women. So the understanding, the compassion, the just the validation for their partners or their female colleagues or their female friends, the validation that what is happening hormonally and physically in the body is real, that it's contributing to every aspect of a woman's life, for some women, and for some women it doesn't, but for some women it really does. And women and men are together all the time. So if you're with a midlife woman, to just understand that this may be part of what's happening to her. She may not be able to present at work as effectively as she could before because she's having hot flashes or a little brain fog or didn't sleep the night before. This doesn't mean there's anything wrong or broken about her. It just means she needs a little bit more compassion to get through those symptoms and to get through this phase. It doesn't mean that she's not as productive or going to be as effective, at work or at home. It just means that basically she needs a little more compassion. And I think there are a lot of men who are starting to understand, and a lot of leaders in the workplace as well, who are starting to realize that the female workforce just needs a little extra accommodation around this time frame in order to ensure that they're treated equitably and that they're treated well, and they can get back to doing their job and feeling really good.
Excellent point you made it. It's a workplace. Let us talk about that. The 50% of the women are in the workforce now, and how do they companies and corporations? They don't. I don't know any time they have any policies regarding this one. You think companies should have a policy how to deal with this kind of menopausal situation with the woman with the going through menopause. You think that kind of a policy making body, that there must be some kind of a statement or something that they should make it. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. We know that the estimates are somewhere in the range of 1.8 million women have left the workforce since 2020 related to menopausal symptoms, related to, physical health around that time frame. And when women leave the workforce, we know that the impact financially for the company is exorbitant. A third of every woman's salary or every woman that leaves is going to be cost to the company. We know that, a few more stats people may not be aware of. 1 in 5 women have actually considered leaving their jobs. 1 in 5 women have actually turned down promotions because of menopausal symptoms. Over 40% have felt like they didn't get support because there aren't those policies in place. And 40% say that they've missed work because of symptoms related to their menopause or midlife stressors. So I think that this is not something that's going to go away, and it's not something we can avoid, especially if we want to be leading an effective workplace. And you mentioned policies. Really, for example, the UK is way ahead of the US and Canada on policies in the workplace around menopause, around midlife, making sure that there's employee assistance programs, making sure that there's flexibility, making sure that there's conversation and education, and that everybody is well informed that this is an important part of a woman's life that can be negotiated in a really smooth way with the right support system at work and at home.
Oh, excellent. I didn't know that. That it must be. So what the companies can do is understanding a little bit a policy, and there is a conversation about that. They at least, right? And that's what you're saying. What the companies can do. Uh, uh,
Yeah, so there's education. There can be workshops. There can be print materials, or women's health programs. For example, I've been invited to speak at several women's health summits and women's health organizations, and that can include just the women, or it can include, as you say, all of the people at work, because everybody really needs to understand all an equitable environment. In employee assistance programs. So we know that in the US, a lot of women are unable to get prescription medication or have access to healthcare if they don't have insurance or they're underinsured. And so workplaces can really do a lot to support their employees if they're able to provide, menopausal care, menopausal consultation, access to prescriptions if a woman, for example, needed or wanted menopausal hormone therapy. These are things that can easily be implemented in the US. And as with any business and workplace, it's always financial, right? And the ROI for having put those supports in place is huge. The estimate is somewhere in the range of $3 billion annually lost because of missed days due to the symptoms and the menopausal concerns that we're talking about. It's a lot of money that can be recouped if we support women so that they can be fully functional, thriving, happy, healthy.
No, you just mentioned the hormonal therapy. Let us talk about the treatment options. What are the treatment process? What are the treatments involved in this for menopause? Is there any psychological, physical, all? Tell us a little bit about what are the treatments available for the woman going through menopause?
Yeah. So when I talk with women about menopause, and I'm sure we'll share, I do consultation services with Pandia Health. So this can be an online intake, or we can do this in person. When I talk with patients about menopause or midlife, I always build it like a pyramid. So foundationally, it's about lifestyle. We know that in the US, people aren't necessarily eating healthy or exercising regularly. They're stressed beyond, they're having ravaging health effects from stress and not sleeping for various reasons. We've always got our phone beside us. So I always start with diet, nutrition, exercise, sleep, and stress management. That's the foundation of any good health program. And that's what I believe physicians and health providers need to be mentioning first. There's a lot a woman can do, and a man, to feel healthy just by optimizing those lifestyle changes. The next step up is truly there's nutritional gaps and every cell in our body. And I know you get down to a cellular level in a lot of your conversations. Every cell in our body is related to what we put in our body and how we treat our body. So we can fill nutritional gaps with good quality pharmaceutical grade supplements. So things like vitamin D, things like calcium, things like omega-3s, fish oils, these things that we don't always get in an American diet can be supplemented so that our cells and are functioning properly and our hormones are able to do their job. The next level is where we get to prescriptions. So we don't always go straight to prescriptions, but with prescriptions for menopause, it would be menopausal hormone therapy in the form of estrogen and progesterone. We can dig more into how and why and when and all of that. And then there's non-hormone prescriptions. So things like antidepressants in certain dosages and forms can actually help with menopausal symptoms, not because of the depression or mood, but because they actually help with those symptoms. And then there's some complementary approaches. Things, weight loss will sometimes help, acupuncture will sometimes help, cognitive behavioral therapy will sometimes help. So there's a lot of things that can help that are sort of around and supportive of conventional medicine.
What are the side effects of these hormonal replacement therapy or some of these medicines? Are there any side effects or risks involved in this process, Dr. Hansen?
Yeah, so it's interesting when we talk about side effects for medications because the benefits are also the side effects. Like what happens to your body when you take a medication? Some of it's good and some of it's not good. So with menopausal hormone therapy, I would say we need to be thinking about things like blood clots. We need to be thinking about potentially cancer. We need to be thinking about these things, but the studies are really, really good that the risks are very, very low, and specifically really low in the age group who are within 10 years of menopause or less than the age of 60. Doesn't mean you can't take it beyond, but if you're in that age range where you're sort of in that younger menopausal group, there's way more benefits in all of the areas we've talked about than risks. So it's like we tip the scale far over to benefit than we do risk. So there's benefit in bone protection. There's benefit for all the organs, brain, heart, all of those things are basically protected when we're able to replace estrogen in those younger menopausal years. And then when we get older, it gets to be more of a conversation about pros and cons. But I would suggest that those are the main side effects for menopausal hormone therapy. And of course, every medication has side effects. The list is the length of your arm that your pharmacist gives you every time you take a medication. But when we weigh the risks and benefits, it's usually in appropriate people, there's more benefit than risk.
Yeah, another dimension. Actually, I tell you the dimension of that. When I was reading about you in the beginning days, in the first time when I had interviewed, I saw something interesting. He said that if you are stressed out, turn the stress into curiosity. It struck me that what I did in my mind. It is a message to both women and men, for everybody. It is really a mantra for me. It saved me personally. Actually, whenever I get that stressed out, I turned that into curiosity and really saved me. Tell us a little bit that your advice struck me right away into this little bit. Tell us, people who go through the stresses, how they can turn that into curiosity.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? And I'm so glad you reminded me of that. So, when we're feeling stressed or anxious and our nervous system is on high alert, it's, you know, it's a survival mechanism. We go into fight, flight, or freeze, and our body physiologically gets ready for whatever that threat may be. And we know in the current day, we walk around in this stressed environment because we didn't hit a deadline, or we didn't do the grocery shopping, or we forgot to turn the laundry over, or we've got something going on with a friend, or, you know, some drama in the last conversation we've had. And those things, they're elevated to the point of threat, and they feel like they are our survival, but they're really not they're not about survival.
Correct.
And so our body interprets it that way. And if we're able to reframe and be really self-aware of what's happening in our nervous system, what we're feeling in our body, and to understand, you know, I'm safe right now, everything's okay, then we can actually regulate our nervous system. That's going to bring down our cortisol. It's going to bring down our epinephrine. It's going to have much more healthful healing effects if we're able to be more in the parasympathetic, in other words, in the calm part of our nervous system. And so one of the ways to do that, as we talked about last time, is to ask yourself, you know, what's happening, what's going on. And we can't really be in fight, flight, or freeze if we're in curiosity. So if we're asking the question, like, what's going on, what's possible here, what if, you know, asking ourselves, well, what if, or what could I do with this situation? And for some reason, and I think you might feel it too, when I go into curiosity, it's just a lighter, almost playful feeling. And it just helps really alleviate that stress, you know, even if that stress feels really severe in the moment to moment.
It's a great advice, no question about that. It is a personally I benefited. So a lot of people, a lot of women call you. You do online consultation. You do EW Circle, mfordwomancircle.com, right? That is
Yes.
it. So I'm going to present the topic about another woman, extraordinary woman from the history, and then after that I come back and ask about your EW Circle, how the people can reach you. Okay. So if
Thank
you,
you.
you both will be watching, you can jump in any time in between. You make a comment. You're more than welcome to make any comments. So let me bring that, and I will bring you into the side steps. Both we can. Okay. I'm going to. That is Dr. Catherine Hansen, a OB/GYN doctor. She's a menopause expert, sexual health expert. You should talk with her. She's an eloquent speaker. She could be great speaker for your organizations. Let me present a topic on extraordinary woman out of Africa. She is when you say Africa, that you always think about African woman, but she is an African woman. She was born in Africa. She is a white woman. In 90, let me tell you about this. In 1920, let me start this process. 1928, Alexander Fleming, and then the Dr. Foley, and then Ernest, another gentleman. Three of them found a penicillin. They discovered penicillin. That's a penicillin more is unexpected discovery, actually. So the penicillin is killing the bacteria and the bad bacteria in 1928. That was a big revelation. It is a tremendous benefit for the penicillin, can kill the infections. That is a wonder drug. That's what they found out in 1928. What they did was, after that, the problem with that one is penicillin mold. You need for example, penicillin mold you can find in the oranges. If I like oranges, and when you see oranges, you leave it there. That's a penicillin mold that is coming on the top of it. So it is, you have to get tons of to get a penicillin 1 milligram, you need to get tons of oranges. Is a huge problem. To how many people you need to get just a tons of mold you have to get from the lakes and all those things. It is a huge challenge during that time, 1920s. This is how do they solve this problem, getting a penicillin for everybody to save lives. So penicillin is a miracle drug. It is saving, it's killing all the infections. But there's a problem is that how do you manufacture? How do you do that? We don't know at the time, because you need to, the mold it requires is a huge amounts of mold is required. So another problem, there is another problem with the penicillin is a side reaction, allergic reaction. Some people can, that shocks you get it, and then GI problem. A lot of the children get diarrhea and all those things. So there is a physical problems there that associated with the penicillin. There's a lot of side reactions. That's because the reason is we don't know what the structure of the penicillin is. We don't know what are the chemical compounds, what is the elements involved in the structure of the penicillin. That is a thing that we don't know. So that is a bigger problem they were facing in 1930s. So during the time there is so you have to see the structure of the penicillin. You have to see, seeing is a penicillin. You have to see inside what it is. Then you can come back with a synthetic penicillin. But if you don't know what it is, we don't know. We have to see it. How do you see it? How do you see the actually viruses, molecules, cells? How do you see them? You use, as you know, is a standard procedure, standard process. Our eye can see zero point 0.02 millimeters, 0.2 millimeters, dust particles. So our eyes are very sharp, actually. They can see 0.2 millimeters if you see in the sun, you can see the dust particles. That is a 0.2 millimeters. That's amazing. Actually, eyes are very sharp. Then, if you do the light microscope, the light, Robert Hooke invented it. It is, you can do 10,000 times magnification. You can see 10,000 smaller than that. What you see, 10,000 times smaller than that dust particle you can see through the light microscope. If you use an electron microscope, it's a 5 to 50 million times smaller than that. It's just the atomic level. You can go all the way see it. So these are all microscope. You can see the structures. You can see the stuff, not structure. You can see the stuff. The reason I qualify that, the reason is I qualify that because okay. Now see that because the microscope, you can only see surface. You cannot see inside. You cannot see what is inside the cell. You cannot see what is inside the penicillin compound. What is a penicillin molecule? You cannot see inside. So because it's limited, it's two-dimensional, right? You cannot see inside. Well, so there is another field emerging during this time that is called X-rays. X-rays were invented 1895 by William Röntgen. Then his wife, that is the first picture of his wife. She was wearing a wedding ring. You can see that. So that's the first picture of the X-ray taken by William Röntgen. Then after that, X-rays can go inside and see inside. So we need to get access to inside the body without cutting it. So that's X-rays allow you to see inside. So how do we see the X-rays? So what we do in X-rays, if you see in the doctor's offices, you see X-rays go straight, and then then a lot of them get scattered, and it cannot pass through. It partially passes through the bones, and sometimes it doesn't pass through the bones. So you can get the shade in the X-ray film. You can see the white ribs and everything you see. That is, you could not able to see. The soft tissue it passes through. It is a hard tissue. It partially goes through. That's why you see the differences. You can diagnose the bronchitis. You can diagnose the pneumonia. All those things are helpful. But there is scattered radiation there. We ignore that scattered radiation. That's the reason all the techs, X-ray techs, I used to run a X-ray lab. So we used to wear that X-ray badge. That's to measure how much you exposed. So these people who are working in the techs, they have to wear that badge. So that's a badge available, how much radiation you are getting it. That's why you have to wear that badge. So to measure the X-ray radiation, per month, per year. So you see if it's not a dangerous levels it's going through. So there is a scattered radiation goes around all over the place. That we ignore it in the X-rays, regular X-rays. But that is coming to the picture now. What you can do is so diagnostic radiology, X-rays revolutionized the diagnostic radiology. You can diagnose so many things in MRI, CT scan, ultrasound, X-rays. MRI they don't use X-rays, but X-rays and the CT scans. So they use X-rays. So they are mammogram. All of them are revolutionized the medicine. But what is another area that we want to know inside? We ignore the scattered radiation. Remember I was telling you, we ignore and we measure in the X-ray lab, we measure the X-ray radiation but through the badge. But what is the radiation? What is the scattered parts? That What they found out is, if the brothers from England, two brothers, Black's brothers, what they found out, if you put a crystal inside, you put a crystal there, it will scatter whenever there is an atom there. It hits that one and scatter. The scattering comes from the when the X-rays hitting the atoms inside the crystal. Then they go different directions. So by taking the account of those X-rays, the scattered radiation, you can tell where exactly the atoms are, where the locations of the atoms are, spatial locations. That is a scattered. So the X-ray, that is called X-ray crystallography. So you make anything crystal, you expose the crystal and put X-ray there. You can collect all the X-ray. It is a X-ray crystal. The scattered radiation. You can measure the X-ray. Measure the structure of the. You can calculate the structure of the crystal, structure of that particular molecule. So you can do a lot of biomolecule. The first one they did a sodium chloride, actually salt. That's why, because of that we know salt structure. Then they added iodine. Because of that reason, they know exactly what is missing there. So they added iodized salt because of the reason, because thyroid problem and other problems come out. That's the reason they did that. But then, so that is where this woman come in the picture, an extraordinary woman. Her name is Dorothy Mary Crawford, I think I'm saying, okay. She was born in 1910. She was born in Egypt. She was of English origin. She was parents are both are the diplomats in the working for the British Embassy in Egypt. Father is an archaeologist. She was father is an archaeologist. John Winter is name, and mother is the Mary. She is a Grace Mary. She is a botanist. And mother is studying about a lot of these. So she came from a very educated family. She has a lot of time in Egypt. She was born in Cairo. She's not born in any England. She was born in Cairo. So that's why she's out of Africa. I said that. So parents, most of the time they spend the time in the Africa. That's what they lived in Africa most of their time. So what they did was in Egypt, that she was in England. Then parents moved to Sudan, Ghana. They moved around the Middle East, and she traveled quite a bit in those areas. So she's very global wanderer. Her family is very well versed well traveled in the African continent in itself, and the Middle East. So what is Mary? So what they're doing is, yeah. So Mary's mother, Dorothy's mother, Dorothy Crawford Long. Dorothy's mother is that she's studying the church crystals, the mosaics in the paintings, the crystallized mosaics. I don't know much about it, but these are the crystals. She was writing about it and talking about it, and then she gave a book. During the 1930s, the book came out. 1913, the book came out. X-ray crystallography book by Brack's brothers, by Brack's father and son team. They wrote that book. She gave us a gift for Dorothy. Dorothy, already knowing about crystals, she loved it, and then she studied back and forth in England and going back to Africa in England, and she finished the PhD in England in chemistry. Okay, so she was always collecting the crystals, and then she with her sister and every place, all the places she goes, and then studying about the churches, mosaics, these crystals in church. So what is that? Then she got this X-ray crystal. That X-ray crystal, she got this idea about this. If you crystallize anything, then you can get the inside structure of that process. You will know what is inside. If you scatter the radiation, you collect the scattered radiation. We ignored it before. If you collect the scattered radiation and see that, then attenuation, if you can measure through mathematics, you can tell the exact location of the atoms inside the crystal, inside that, in the molecule. That's what she did. So she wanted it. That's what she did. She was a penicillin. She did she took the penicillin. Everybody's worried about what is going on in penicillin. She took the penicillin, and then she put in the ethanol alcohol, and then she crystallized it somehow. Is a very big process. it must be a lot of trials and errors. She went through and crystallized a penicillin crystal, and she used the penicillin crystal, and then she did use X-ray crystallography, and she is the first one. She was the first one who did the penicillin structure. She came up with a penicillin structure. That is is it ever
Sorry,
coming
that's
out?
me. Yeah, that's me. I'm trying to turn it off, but I'm on do not disturb and it's not working. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm very
That's okay. That's
interested.
okay. No problem. No problem. Take
Sorry.
your time. It's not a big deal. So we need you. Somebody needs you. So yeah, the penicillin structure she found out with a handwritten. It's a very laborious process. You have to do a lot of calculations. It's not like it just put in the machine and it comes out. It's not there are no computers at the time. It's not like the computers are all there at the advanced. So she has to do with the handwriting. That was displayed in the museum right now, and she got the penicillin structure. Then, because of the penicillin structure, there's a lactam ring that is the one which is actually curing the lot of diseases in the lactam ring. So they found out what is the penicillin, magic of the penicillin. They found out through that. So the side effects, what they did was, so they came out with amoxicillin. Because of that, she gave the structure of the penicillin. She derived the amoxicillin. They got rid of some rings, and then they got rid of some chains, and then reduced the side effects. Amoxicillin reduced. That's why billions of children that pink medicine they take it today. The reason is Dorothy Hodgkins. They vowed to the Dorothy Crowfoot. She was not married at the time. After that, she got married, and the Hodgkin is her last name. Through marriage she got it. So she actually British embassy produced British government produced a stamp on her name, Dorothy Hodgkin, with a stamp on respect to her, and she on the tribute to her, and they produced that. She didn't get the Nobel Prize. I was surprised why she didn't get the Nobel Prize. I'll tell you about it. San Dorothy is unstoppable after that. She went on to find a B12 vitamin structure. The most complex molecule is very extremely complex. B12 molecule is so B12 structure. She did B12. That's where she got the Nobel Prize actually. So it is a thyroid. I don't. My father used to give me always thyroid injections. My father is a doctor. Small time village doctor. He used to give me B12 complex B12 injections all the times. It's a red blood cells. It is a nervous mood disorders. Maybe menopause. They take a B12. I don't know. We'll ask. Do they take Dr. Hansen? Do they take a B12? Is a medicine they treat? You give them to the woman during the
Yeah,
menopause?
what's interesting is B complex is definitely one of the things that's important. B12 is really important for people who don't eat meat. So for vegetarians and vegans, it's really important. But the other thing about B12, I was just talking with patients about this today, is it can come in a methylated form. And there's a good proportion of the population that can't actually methylate B12, which means they need to take it in a methylated form in order to be able to use it. And so that's a type of supplement that we really need to be asking the pharmacist about to make sure we're getting it in a methylated form, which is a higher quality, but it's also one that our body can use for the people who have certain genetic changes that don't allow them to methylate. And if they don't get it in a methylated form for those people, it can create all kinds of inflammation and elevated problems that can sometimes lead to inflammatory conditions that can contribute to heart disease or arthritis, joint issues, or even cancers. So B12 is a really interesting vitamin.
Thank you for educating us. I didn't know that that's a metabolic problem that is there for the some people that with the genetic problems. It's very interesting. So thank you for a lot of people love that idea. That then they will ask next time pharmacist. Methylated formulation of the B12.
Yeah, I'll even add to that. Some people with that defect, it's called MTHFR genetic defect that we can pick up, will sometimes have more often they may have more miscarriages. So for people who have recurrent miscarriages, we'll check them for that MTHFR defect. And if they have it, then we'll make sure that they're getting methylated folate, which is also a B vitamin, methylated B12, methylated B6, and that will sometimes help replace those deficiencies in a healthy way for people who are having pregnancy-related issues.
Great info. Thank you so much. That is a powerful. So thank you so much for that information. That's a needed information. Dorothy is on steroids. I mean, the way I'm saying that, because she was inventing everything one day, one after the other. This is the cholesterol is like a steroids, like a steroids, some form of steroids. They do cholesterol deposits in radio imaging. You can do that. The radio imaging cholesterol deposits you can measure. So they use that right now. That she is the one who founded the cholesterol iode. I think that is a one they use as a radio isotope. They do that as a steroid. They give it to that to measure the cholesterol deposits. I didn't know that she did that because she was in steroid. She invented the structure. She discovered the structure of that, and she discovered the structure of the cholesterol. She was on a roll. She was doing one after the other. It is the most complex ones. Then she was insulin. She did not complete insulin, but she was, one of the Canadian doctor was involved also in this process. But insulin structure she started it. And her PhD thesis was on insulin. So because of her, a lot of people worked on her work and then went on further. So she was amazing woman. She was B12 structure. She won the Nobel Prize while she is in Ghana, traveling in Ghana, and she spent the whole family spent a lot of time in Africa. And she was in Ghana. She got the news that she won the Nobel Prize for the B12 structure. In 1964 she won the Nobel Prize, well deserving. She deserves a lot more Nobel Prizes than. She is a professor for the door. A lot of people didn't know this. Margaret Thatcher is a chemist actually. She did a bachelor's in chemistry, and then Margaret Thatcher teacher was Dorothy Hodgkin. Was a Margaret Thatcher's teacher, professor. So even though ideologically they are very different, she's a conservative, Margaret Thatcher, the Dorothy Hodgkin is a very extremely liberal. so but they're friends. She gave a excellent tribute to her. In that, if you see that tribute for her when she died, there's one of the. She said that the British Science, basically, she's selling that how that great was how great she contributed to the British science. So she died. Oh, professor of then she died in 1994. She lived quite a bit of life. She did 84 years old, and then Professor Venki Ramakrishnan is actually from India, but then he moved to States, and then after that Canada. He was in Canada for a while, then moved back to Dr. Catherine Hansen. He came to States, then went to England, and then he was a sir. He got the Nobel Prize for the ribosome discovery of the ribosome molecule, one of the most complex molecule, work based on the Dorothy Hodgkin's work. So in the memorial lecture, Dorothy Hodgkin memorial lecture, he said that it is arm and awe. What she did was, with the limited resources, what she did was an amazing work, and that we made a tribute to the memorial lecture of the Dorothy Hodgkin's memorial lecture. She was truly a trailblazer. She is a trailblazer. She discovered the penicillin, cholesterol, B12, insulin. She played a role in everything. She was loved Africa. All her family spent a lot of time in Africa, and she went to China. She started crystallography conferences around the world. Because of her, she's unsung hero of the medicine. We don't know her. People should know about her. That's why I told that why we should know more about a woman. It is very important that what the contributions they do. So people like Catherine Hansen, that they're bringing all these women contributions and their problems and all these things we need to bring to the front. Otherwise, the humanity cannot progress. That's my question. Let me bring Dr. Hansen back to the stage. Dr. Hansen, what do you think?
Wow, I am also in awe. I'm absolutely amazed. I've never heard of Dorothy Hodgkin, and I've been taking notes furiously. It's so amazing how we're able to be educated about these unsung heroes through your work, Ramana. Really, really amazing. Thank you so much. I'm excited to know about this woman. I'm also really intrigued that she passed at 84 years old, which means that she would have had to also experience some form of menopause, very likely, and yet continued her work and continued to save lives. And we know that that's what women do. We want to continue to make a contribution throughout our entire life.
Yes, so people like you that were doing so much great work. Tell us a little bit. You do UW Empowered Women Circle. That's what we need. All women needs to bring to the forefront of these problems. Is a menopause like a woman's hysteria that we dismiss. That days are over. When people like you to bring this kind of things to the forefront of the medicine. Tell us a little bit about your UW Circle, a little bit, Dr. Hansen.
Yeah, thank you. So we were talking about, what people can do in the workplace, and sometimes people can get their support at work, but as we're talking about, very often that's not the case. And so I have founded the Empowered Women's Circle, which you can find at ewcircle.com, ewcircle.com. And so it's a women's community. We get together, myself and another leader, Lisa Burchartz, and we get together twice a month and we talk about women's concerns. We talk about ways to lift and amplify each other as women. And we really just have courageous conversations about the things that really, really matter to women these days. And by doing that, we help each other to live and thrive our very best lives.
Yeah,
And
go
go ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
Well, and I was just going to add to that too. Just want to make mention of Pandia Health.
That's exactly.
I'm
Okay.
here. I have my Pandia Health logo here. Pandia Health is providing online telemedicine care for women in many, many states throughout the U.S. And so, as we were talking about, menopause care is not always easily accessible and sometimes not always credible. And Pandia Health is doing a fantastic job of offering credible, science-backed, FDA approved medical care with medical providers that are menopause trained specialists. And so we just want to make sure people know that there is access to menopausal care, as well as the supportive community of the Empowered Women's Circle.
Sophia Yan is the chief medical officer for the Pandia Health. She's a truly amazing woman. She introduced me to you. Thanks for both of you. You really did an amazing job. You're giving a lot of choices for women. I think you're doing a great services. Both of you together. I think it's unbelievable. This is the things that we need. We need to be educated, men and women. Both of them need to be educated in this area. It is truly an honor to talk with you, Dr. Hansen. And one more promise you made me, that is, I'm going to talk with your husband one of these days. That
Yes,
is an
you are.
astronaut. So I'm going to hold you for that.
Yes, you are, Ramana. He knows about you. He knows how great your work is, and he is looking forward to that conversation as well. He's a very, very busy man these days, preparing for his trip around the moon, which is coming in about September of 2025. And after the recent solar eclipse, which was a really profound experience, he's been very busy. He couldn't make it tonight, but yes, you will meet him, and we look forward to that.
Thank you so much. I'm always honored and privileged, and particularly Canadian, that I have that affinity there. Thank you so much. And ewcircle.com, that is a Catherine Hansen. Please go and get in touch with her. What is your email address, Dr. Hansen?
Yeah. People can reach out to me at Catherine at ewcircle.com, Catherine at ewcircle.com, or come on over to ewcircle.com and get on the mailing list. I send out a newsletter every week, and it's going to include all kinds of great stuff that we're doing, that we're offering, and also lots of tidbits and health advice that's vetted and credible and really helps women to feel happy, healthy, and thriving.
Thank you all. Good night. Thank you so much, Dr. Hansen. It's a wonderful talking with you, and you are welcome anytime for this podcast. Thank you all. Thank you. Good night.
I look forward to it. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Bye. I have a little bit of play in 1 second. Yeah.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.